Okay, so last time we did. Where did we finish last time? It was chapter 2. So Barley, the commander, uh, just left the moon. He left he remembered everything about his past, about how he put together the expedition, how they got there so far. And then he and the kid that was the only one in the crew that looked like a kid, everybody else looked an adult. They went back in this small ship to the actual planet where the rest of the crew had found the Homo sapien fossils. So that's where we left. So we met the captain, not the captain, but the commander, the main guy in the expedition, Barley. We already met all the, more important members of the expedition. The expedition is 20 of them, but I really only mention a few, which are the ones that are considered more important, but there are others. So we already covered that. We know those. So now we're gonna go to chapter 3, The Great Discovery. I already mentioned this. I'm pretty sure I mentioned in the what to expect video for the Real Reality series, but you can expect that every chapter is gonna have something good in it. Most of the time, there's going to be some important event or a new character or something, that matters is going to be happening every chapter. So every chapter is good. So I just want to make sure that I repeat that so everyone is clear about the fact that with this story, with this series, and with the other series I'm gonna do, there's gonna be something that matters happening in every chapter. So every chapter matters. There are no fillers here. So first one was fossils of Homo sapiens. They found the fossils. Second one, Barley's memories. The backstory for the commander, Barley, who is an important character in the story. And now third one. So it already feels like a lot has happened already in this story, and we have only covered 2 chapters, which is barely anything. So now we're going to number 3, which is the Great Discovery. So we'll think that the Great Discovery is going to be the fossils, but we'll see what it is going to be. We're gonna see today. Or yesterday, if you read the chapter, I uploaded I finished writing the chapter, I finished editing it, and I uploaded it in my blog, autopedrocristobal.wordpress.com. It is already there. I uploaded it in Wattpad, so wattpad.com/user/Valkyrian Creator, which is like my nickname in social media, Valkyrian Creator with a B. So it's already there. So if you're following any of those 2 websites, my blog, autopedrocristobal.wordpress.com, or the Wattpad site, you already got like a notification or something, and you might have been able to read it because I uploaded it yesterday already. And today it's 6 p.m. I think, or 5. So it has been uploaded for definitely longer than 12 hours so far. So now I'm gonna do the version where I tell you what happens, where I build up my skills as storyteller live. So now in the Great Discovery, Barley comes back in their small ship with Dorothy, with the kid. The kid, you can tell that the guy, we already mentioned it, but I think it matters, so I'm gonna mention it again. The robot kid in the expedition, Dereki, who Barley takes care of, he's like the adopted son of Barley, the commander, pretty much. You can tell that he has some sort of like I don't want to say problem, but he obviously he's like a 6-year-old kid, so he doesn't really contribute anything there. He doesn't fix anything. He doesn't do anything extraordinary to help the expedition to go forward, but it doesn't matter because Barley, the leader, the commander, He's happy just taking care of the kid. So he doesn't care if the kid doesn't contribute anything to their expedition. So he comes back with the kid. He lands the ship right in front of the site of the destroyed buildings where the others found the fossils on the planet, because these two, they were on the moon. Like Barley was like a religious military ninja kind of guy. You know, he liked to go to the moon of the planets that they visit, where they were doing their research, and he would do his trainings there, like solo by himself, his ninja trainings and all that, with a super advanced virtual system. So, and he's the only one in the group that is like that, in that sense, you know, in the religious sense, in the ninja level kind of sense. He's the only one that is like that in those two categories out of their whole group. The others obviously have training with weapons, they know how to shoot, but they are not at the level, the agent, S-rank agent level that Barley has. So Barley lands the ship right there in front of the destroyed side of buildings. He does it pretty well, which suggests that he learned how to pilot a ship, probably from Jack. Jack is the one in the group who was and who still is, the expert pilot. So he lands there and he goes with the Ricky until he reaches them. But first he reaches Danius and Elia and Action, and he doesn't see the fossils right away. And Barley is obviously, very happy, extremely cheerful, like never before, just like he used to be at the very beginning of his story, which is what we covered last chapter, when he was, very adventurous, very brave, and he will do anything to get that expedition started, and eventually he did. He was, ready to celebrate with the rest of the crew, and he was expecting to see all of them just like him, because at that point they all wanted the same thing. They wanted to find those fossils, and now that they did, he found that they looked kind of, serious. They were not celebrating. They were not like him, who was literally ready to throw a party because they found the fossils. So he knew that something was wrong. And when he saw Action, so Action was the one that was fairly positive, that was a pretty positive guy. And he had like a broken face, like, the skin, artificial skin, because they were robo-shaping, was all cut, and you could see like the metal on the center of his face. And, Barley thinks that there's something wrong there. So he right away grabs his plasma rifle, and he's kind of like ready for a battle. And he asks what's going on to Action, and Action tells him to not worry. Nothing happened there. That was just an accident. Something fell on his face and literally broke the artificial skin that they had. All of them had artificial skin on, because they were like human-like robots. Essentially, that's what they were. They didn't think of themselves that way, even though they knew they were robo-shaping, but that's what they really were at the end of the day. So then, Action was about to tell him, no, I haven't, invested any time in actually getting my injury fixed, because it wasn't a big deal, and because I was actually digging up something here in the fossils that was not exactly the fossils. And when he was about to say that, he stopped, because he realized that maybe the others, maybe Danius and Elliot didn't want to say it right away. Maybe they wanted to tell him what they have found there, which wasn't just the fossils. So then he realizes that there's something wrong with Danius and Elliot, the two scientists, the two big researchers in their group. All of them were researchers in a way. If you look at the way they studied the archives of the ancients that they had in the big ship, which was basically all the recordings that they had from the ancient Homo sapien civilization. So in that way, they all were, researchers and scholars, but in reality, the only ones out of the entire group who were like certified researchers and scholars, like at Utopia, at their planet, at their world, were Danius and Elliot. And maybe in second place, Action, who was sort of like an archaeologist sort of guy. So he obviously had like a more, academic background like the other two. But the rest of them, even though they had specialties, they had other backgrounds. Like one of the guys was a pilot, and you could go through all of them like that. And in reality, they were not scientists. There were only two of them that were like serious scientists, Danius and Elia. Second place, Exien, who was an archaeologist. So, obviously Barley asked them, what's going on here? Because you do, when you called us, when you called, the kid, Derricky, through his communicator, you look very happy about this. So you now look so serious, what's going on here? And then, Danius essentially tells him that they found the fossils because Barley was starting to think that there was a problem, that maybe just like all the other times that they thought that they had found them, maybe they didn't find them. Also, this time they failed to find them. But they did find the fossils. But Danius tells him that they found something else that they were not expecting with the fossils. So then Barley, he just tells them he tells them nicely, but he tells them, gives them the order to get out of the way so he can go in and see what's going on there, what they found. So he goes in. He sees they already almost took care of half of the huge yellowish cube. They, pulverized the thing without destroying the fossils because they have like advanced technological gadgets to deal with all that. So they kept all the fossils just the way they were, but they took out the rock, the yellowish rock, that had them there essentially frozen in time. They were, for lack of better words, they were frozen in time because of that rock. So then Barley goes there and he sees that they found a lot of fossils. There's like a section on the left which is full of like human Homo sapien fossils of all sizes. So you can tell from the shapes of the skeletons that there are men and women, and there are also children of different sizes. And based on how they are positioned, how they look, you can tell that they were either, like all of them, every single one of them, was either covering the smaller ones, like the adults were trying to protect the children from something, or they were trying to escape from the place. So based on how they were positioned and what it looked like, when that yellowish thing kept them frozen there, when that event happened, they were trying to protect the smaller ones or trying to escape. But Barley kept looking because this was like a gigantic yellowish cube. So it was like a very large place, and the whole thing had been, frozen by that yellow rock, which they removed. So now the central part of the location, it had fossils that looked a little different, because these ones, they were not trying to escape, but they were, like looking pretty brave, pretty strong, and they were looking at the other side, the right side, and they were sort of like fighting something. And you could tell that they were so determined that, that determination, that look of determination even survived. Like you could see it on the skeletons. And these skeletons, they were not like the first ones. They were like part standard and part with robotic parts in the skeleton. So they were, essentially they were hybrids. And hybrids were essentially like humans that were augmented or taken to the next level, obviously with some sort of, robotic mechanical addition to their anatomy that in fact made them almost as strong and almost as powerful as the Robosapiens. So they were like half and half, like a hybrid. Like these were, like 60% human and 40% robot, essentially. But they were still much more human because their brain, like their head, their whole head, was human. But they already had like parts of the body which were robotic. And obviously that made them tougher. So these guys were fighting with everything they had. They, you know, based on the fossils there, they look like heroes who were fighting something big. And what they were fighting on the right, which was, you know, the last thing that Raleigh saw, were Robo sapiens, and that was what was shocking his crew and what also shocked him. Like they expected to find the fossils of the Homo sapiens by themselves. They didn't expect to find like a panorama, like an event, fossilized event of a battle between the ancients, who were the Homo sapiens, their hybrids, who, you know, they saw the ancients and the hybrids based on their utopian history, based on what they learned at their planet and their schools, as not so good. They saw them as sort of like bad guys in many ways, because in their history painted the ancient Robo sapiens, who were the first of them, as the good guys. And the ancient Homo sapiens, you know, as great as they were, and even if they were the creators and all that, as not good. But this thing that they found, it proved otherwise, because in this thing that they found, the enemy, the devastating enemy, by the way, because it was an enemy that looked completely fearless and emotionless, and the others were, you know, like screwed unless they were hybrids, because the hybrids, you could tell that they could put up a battle against the Robo sapiens. So these, you know, and these ancient Robo sapiens that were inside the rock, they looked a lot as if they were like, you know, like ancient versions, like the prior older versions of the way their president at Utopia, President Maddox, and some of the other elites at their planet look like. So the only ones in their entire planet that had not adopted a humanized look, like with artificial skin and wearing clothes as if they were humans like the ones in the past, even though inside they were all made of circuitry and metal and mechanical stuff and all that. So on the outside, they looked essentially like humans from the past. The inside was different, but they didn't care about that. You know, the way they saw it, they were completely normal. They didn't think of it as something strange or different. The ones who looked different, who still had a more robotic look on them on the outside, not just in the inside, were essentially the top elites and leaders at their world, at their planet, at Utopia. The best known one, the most popular one, the one that everybody knew at their planet, was their president, President Maddox. Because their planet essentially was like it was like a worldwide society, like a worldwide global country with only one government. So it was it was a whole world with continents and all that, but they were not divided in countries. Like their whole world was what they called their utopian society. So their president was in fact not a president of a country. It was like the leader of their entire world. And their government was a government for the whole planet, essentially. So obviously finding this fossilized event was something shocking for them. And by the way, this is what I call the Great Discovery, which is the name of the chapter, because they were expecting that the Great Discovery was going to be when they found the fossils of the Homo sapiens, of the ancients, by themselves, and they found their DNA. So with their DNA, they all knew that they will even be able to bring them back, because they were more advanced. They had, more advanced space travel and exploration technologies. They had more advanced cloning technologies and all that. They didn't use them to their fullest, but they had them. So they could do it. Essentially, they could, if they found the fossils and the ancient DNA, they could bring back the ancient Homo sapiens. And they, even though they didn't talk too much about it, they knew that that was a fact. It was something that could happen if they found all these fossils. They made this discovery. But when they made it, it wasn't something for them to like go jumping and celebrating, because they also found out essentially that part of their history was a lie. Because when they found this event that showed the Robo Sapiens as the bad guys, basically, who were attacking and destroying and killing all the others, and the ancient ones and their hybrids as the good ones who were trying to either escape or defend themselves, when they saw that, they saw a proof of the fact that, when their history and their schools and their word and their society and their recordings of things from the past, all that told them that 5,000 years ago, which was when their planet, when Utopia was founded, and when the first of them separated themselves from the ancients, at that point, 5,000 years ago, like the bad ones were the ancients. It wasn't them. They were separating themselves from the ancients because the ancients, with all their biological crap, essentially with all their biological drives and desires and all that, were destroying their civilization and their world, basically. So what their history told them is that the first Robo Sapiens, decided to separate themselves from them, and since the ancients continue with those trends, the ancients destroyed themselves. They, took their civilization to extinction, but it was their fault. Like, there was no other actor from the outside involved. It was them who did it. They were the ones to blame, because it was them who took their word, to its end with their actions, with their obsession with pleasures and power and their wars and their atomic weapons and all that. And also their history told them that at the point of their beginning, when the first Robo Sapiens were founding their world and all that, controversial hybrids of the ancients, who were like part human and part robots, were made, and they attacked them, the Robo Sapiens, and tried to destroy them. So what did they do? The ancient ones, the first of them, their ancestors, they obviously had to attack them back to survive, and they destroyed all of them. So in their history, the Robo Sapiens were the good ones who, they had to put a stop to that, and they just left the crazy humans, to destroy themselves with their biological drives that were very bad and all that. They had to fight their hybrids, and they destroyed their hybrids in self-defense. So they never paint themselves as the aggressor or as the bad guy in the story. And what these guys found, their great discovery, in addition to the fossils of the Homo sapiens and the DNA of the ancients, was a proof of an event that didn't exist in their history, and that was actually a way to disprove what they were told, what they believed in as their history. Because it was an event that showed them and their ancients as the bad ones, as the aggressors, as the destroyers, essentially, and the others, the ones that they believed that were the ancients and the ones that got corrupted, as the ones who were just trying to defend themselves, or trying to escape, or trying to survive. So it was one great discovery that was enough to break their history, to break what the inhabitants of the whole planet believed that was their real reality. So this is the first time that we're mentioning the name of the series. The name of the series is Real Reality. So what they believed to be the reality, or the real reality of their past, was a lie. So that past wasn't their real reality, and they were about to find out, because of what this expedition could bring to the planet and show them. So obviously all the members of the expedition, they were shocked. They were expecting to make the discovery, but they were not expecting to find something that will disprove all their ancient history, or most of it. So obviously, and the leader, Bolle, after he finds out about this, he tells Elia and Danius to kind of like put there like a virtual representation of what the whole event really looked like, because what they were seeing, they could already tell what happened, but what they were seeing were the remainders. They were seeing like skeletons, you know, like skeletons and the broken robots, that kind of thing, but they were just seeing the remainders. So he told his two scientists to put a reflection there, like with the virtual system, because they had advanced technologies. They could do that. So with what they had there, they could kind of like display like a holographic image there to show what it looked like. So when they did that, you know, it looked even worse, especially to us. Like if this was a series that we were seeing on TV, what you see next is supposed to shock you. If it doesn't shock you, they didn't do it right. I think I did it pretty good in what I wrote. Here telling it, I might not be able to do it yet the way I would like it, which is causing shock to the people. And I think I'm not going to try to go to describe it, but you know, essentially what you see there is a you know, like carnage. Like robots were the bad guys, the intelligent ones. Humans look defenseless, essentially. The ones that could make a stand were the ones that were hybrids. But it, you know, it was like a terrible image. So they see that. The commander is serious like everybody else at that point. He already understands what's going on there, why they were not celebrating about their discovery. But the kid, you know, like in these situations, when there's something, there's always someone that notices something different that the others don't notice, and it usually happens when that someone is different in his or her mentality than everybody else. So the one that had a different mentality there was the kid, Derek. You know, the one that was always like playing all that and not really adding anything valuable to the expedition. So Derek noticed that there was one of the kids, of the ancient kids, that was kind of like protecting and holding another creature that wasn't a robo-shaping or homo-shaping or hybrid. And it turns out that the other creature that obviously had, you know, part of it had survived the fossils and all that was a little dog. And who noticed the little dog first? The kid was the one that noticed the little dog first, especially because it was hiding by the other one. So then, and the kid told him, like, hey, there's like, you know, there's like a funny animal there. There's like an animal there that looks like fun. What's going on here? I want to see what that animal is. Because the kid, you know, was like an innocent kid, that kind of thing. So then the others, when they see this, it's like another shock for the adults. Because in their history, they had pets. They had like mechanical dogs and cats and all that, but they were like mechanical, and they were very much like the ones we have, like the like not the real ones, but because the other ones are also real. If they existed, the other ones, the mechanical ones, will also be real. They just are made of a different component, of a different material, but they're also real. So the right way to describe it is not the real ones, but the biological ones. The ones who are made of biological material. So basically they had dogs on that were, you know, except for the reproduction part and all that, which was artificial. They had to make them, they had to manufacture them, but in every other way, they were like the dogs we have today, and the cats and all that. But they believed, that one of their inventors from the past had been the one who created them first. They didn't know that they existed from before in a different form, and in a form that wasn't robotic, but that was in fact, you know, flesh and blood and bone, like the ancients. But this was for the pets, and they didn't know that. They didn't know that the pets existed in a different form before, in a biological version. They didn't know it. So all of them were shocked. Like the ones who were more shocked by this were, you know, the pilot, Jack and Gina. Jack and Gina were like partners, like sort of like a couple, like Danius and Elia. So there were two couples in this expedition, Denius and Elia, and Jack and Gina. So Jack and Gina, they are not the smartest ones here, but they really put things and thoughts on the table that make you think. Like Gina is like, oh wow, what's gonna happen when we take this back to Utopia? What is this going to cause? This is gonna cause controversy, because we're basically, bringing back to the planet something that shows you that not only the history was wrong, but we also got, lied to in terms of who made the first dog. It wasn't us who made the first dog. They already existed in a biological form. Kind of like the ancients, because the ancients were a biological form, like the Homo sapiens, the ancients, were a biological form of them, of the Homo sapiens. Or you could say about worse, the Homo sapiens, were an artificial replica of us, essentially. Like a perfect replica, but artificial. So, if they brought all that proof, it was going to be extremely controversial at the word, because it was going to show them that they didn't know their past, essentially. The reality about their past, the real reality of their history and how they got there, they didn't know it. It wasn't what they thought it was. So, this is like a minor plot twist if you think about it. We really haven't reached the really good plot twist in this story, not even close. But these things, they can be considered like smallish plot twists that make the chapter interesting. So, okay, so let's make sure that I don't jump anything, because I'm just saying this out of what I remember. Like, I didn't read the chapter, memorize it to sit here and say it. This is just based on what I remember, because I came up with the story, so I know what happens, So, oh yeah, Jack has Jack is the expert pilot. He's always pissed off at something. He has like a bad mood, like a bad person. Not a bad personality. He's a good guy, but he has like a tough guy personality, where if something flips the way he doesn't like it, he's pissed off right away. And he's always like that. But they are used to it. He's good, but always pissed off at everything. So imagine when he finds out about this, and apparently dog, which by the way they call them doggos. So they don't call their dogs dog. They have like a different name, dog. So it's like royally pissed off, because it's like, okay, so you're telling me that my favorite pet in planet Utopia, favorite pet of all time, is actually a fabrication. It's an imitation of another one that existed before. It's not the original one. It's more likely than not the best one, because if it is a copy of the original, even if the copy is perfect, it's still not. It's not the original one. It's a copy. So it's like he's really pissed, and he's like, oh, okay, so who lied to us about all this? So he realizes that what they were taught at their schools, at their planet, it was a lie. It was wrong. Exin, the archaeologist, Exin always takes things easy, because he's the positive one, the optimist of the group. But even though he takes things easy, he realizes that, at the very beginning, like years ago, because this expedition took them 95 years. They can live up to 200 and something years, and this expedition looking for the fossil took 95 years out of that. So it's half their lives, essentially. And Exin was telling them that also, he told them at that point, and during that moment, that he had to memorize hundreds of videos talking badly about the Homo sapiens, the ancients, about how bad their biological drives, the way they thought was, because biology made them like that, because they were biological. They wanted to show them in their history that because they were biological, they were bad, and because they were not biological, they didn't use that word, but they were artificial. Then they were the ones that didn't have those problems, and that didn't do those things, and they were different but better because they were not biological. So they wanted to sell them that idea essentially to the people of the world. So, Ekchin basically said that in all the videos that he had to memorize of ancient history, they were always talking badly about the ancients and their biological traits, and he was glad that he had to memorize and he knew that, because thanks to that they gave him like a certification in archaeology. Like, he was an archaeologist but didn't really care about that. He didn't really like that, which is why he left with the expedition, because he didn't like what he was doing. He preferred just going into space and leaving and doing something else. Like, he didn't really care about finding the fossils at first, but because of this archive of the ancients that their government had secret and that the government gave them to help them find fossils, if there was any, which there was because they found some, from this archive, which really kept all, not all, because it didn't have anything from those events where the royal shipping were the bad guys, but it had everything else about the story of the ancients and who they were and how they lived and what they did and all that. From those archives, all of them, like the whole crew, learned a lot, and they all, changed their mind. If any of them didn't think positively about the ancients, they changed their mind after learning so much during so many years about their past and the archives. And Ekchin was one of them. He was one that probably wasn't that positive guy, and he changed for the better when he learned more from that. So, and he says it, in the other version that I wrote, which you can, go to the description, click and read. Highly recommend it, because I know that I do better in writing still. At this point, I do much better in writing than here talking and saying it. So he tells them that he already knew that there was something wrong with their history, but he kind of didn't say it and kept it quiet, because they were going to look at him as if he was, like an idiot talking crap. But he already knew that there was something wrong with their history, and he knew that these ancients, after learning from their archive, they could not be that bad. And what happened here is that this discovery that they made, what they found, that fossilized events, it proved it. It proved that Ekchin was right. It proved that they really were not that bad. In fact, it was the opposite way. The bad ones were the others, but they didn't know that. So yeah, it's a tough realization for all of them. For the captain, not the captain, the commander. And eventually Barley he's ready to grab the fossils and pack everything off and just leave. And he tells Danius, who's the one who's in charge of the handheld device, and feeling a little hot. So he tells Danius, who's the one in charge of the handheld device, controlling the trajectory of their other large ship, which is the one, because remember, this I'm gonna say these people, this RoboSapiens, okay, these people, these artificial metallic people, are, the way they travel is they have one giant ship traveling to the other solar system, the other planet. Well, they have their second big ship with them here, and they spend years here, investigating and searching fossils and all that in this system. And when they're done with the system, it took years, the other ship already arrived at the other, and they just teleport. So they don't travel themselves. They put the ship to travel the other one close to light speed. How they do it, don't ask me. They already have this technology. That, this is why this is science fiction. They can already do it. We can, they can. So they teleport their ship here to where the other one is. So they are never doing the traveling. The other ship is always doing the traveling. So essentially, Barley tells Danius, he asked him, okay, where's the other one at? So is it at a good location to deviate the route and put the route back to the original planet, to Utopia? And Danius tells him that yes, it's actually at the best location. It's like at a midpoint from the other system, and it's actually at the closest location to actually deviate the route and make the route back to Utopia faster, which will be, in that case, almost a year. Apparently, they are not far from their system. They are, they were going to another system that was probably one of the closest to their original system, so it's very close. At light speed, it's close, like 1 year there. So he tells him, go ahead and do it. Send the other chip, change the route, send it back to their home planet, Utopia. So Danius does it. He tells them, we're going back. We're not looking for fossils anymore. We're going to go back. So they begin packing everything, and they have sort of like this advanced, futuristic platforms that they can put them under the fossils, and they grab and hold and move the whole thing, like levitating from the ground without changing the shape, without breaking anything. So it looks really advanced. They have their armors and their weapons, so they're going back to their large chip, that is not traveling, but the one that is with them at that planet. So then, when they go out, Jack and Gina decide to live in the small ship that Barley used to land there, which is not their main one, the large one. They're going to go back walking to the large one. It's at night, like when the expedition got there without Barley and without Derricky, it was during the day. So now it's at night. So they finish at night, they're leaving. They actually look quite discouraged. Like their whole group, they made a great discovery, something that can change their history, what they believe about the reality of the past, but they don't look happy. Because they know what they found. They know they found something that is gonna bring a lot of controversy in their world, and they are essentially taking it back. They are going to take it there. They're taking the controversy with them. Also, they know that their DNA, the DNA that they found on all that, can be used to revive the ancients. So yeah, that's another controversy that they know that's gonna be on the plate. The revival of the biological versions of the ancients, which it's obviously going to happen. I don't think that it is a spoiler at this point. It's gonna happen in this series. Obviously, you're gonna see humans in this series. That's pretty obvious, I think. So, like the series is not just about robots. So then, they're going back, and the Barley, just like all the others, is looking a little sad, actually, a little, like quiet. But when the leader guy, the kid, goes there with him and tells him, Commander, are we taking, the ancient dog? Are we taking the ancient dog with us? Because the kid is a kid. Like they have other planet kids that think like adults. But this kid apparently had some sort of, mechanical malfunction. I mean, we have to understand. I already understand it, but you guys have to understand that the way I imagine this story, the relationship between Barley, the commander, and Derricky, the kid in their expedition, it's sort of like a very caring father, human father, even though they are not human, and a highly autistic kid who is oblivious, but who is a nice kid, and the father, who's the father figure, Barley, cares a lot about this kid. Like he's having a bad time, he's serious and all that, is sad, and this kid goes to him, and when he sees that the kid is happy about the dog, he gets happy himself. So this guy is essentially the adopted father of the kid, and he's happy about that. He doesn't care if the kid doesn't do anything. He's just happy when he sees that the kid is also happy, essentially. So he tells them that yes, that they are gonna take back the dog, and more likely than not, they will be able to revive it, because if they have the DNA from the dog, they can also make, like a copy of it, like a clone. Essentially, they can clone it. And if not, he's gonna buy him like a mechanical one, like one of the ones that they have there. It's just like a parent. It's the way Barley thinks about Derricky, and the way we see them interacting is just like that. It's like a very caring dad and the kid who has some sort of problem, but the dad doesn't care. The dad only cares about the fact that this is his kid, so he's very sweet with the kid and all that. Even though outside of that, he is a strict leader, a good leader, but like a tough and a strict one. He likes giving orders, and he likes leading the whole thing and telling the others what to do, in a nice way, but he likes that. He's that kind of leader, essentially. So, and when he realizes that, like he gets a little more happy thanks to the kid, and he sees the others walking back, and they don't look happy even though they made the great discovery. So he kind of like wants to go cheer them up, the rest of the crew, and he listens, he like overhears what Danius and Elia are talking about. So Danius and Elia, obviously they were the real scientists in the group, so they had studied the archive of the ancients with a different vision from the others, with a vision that was also thinking of something scientific, of research, that kind of thing. But they wanted to focus their research on love, and obviously they knew it was going to be difficult to actually put that on the spotlight at their planet, at Utopia, because they didn't give in Utopia much importance to the importance of love. They saw it as one of those traits, from those biological traits from the ancients from back then, that messed them up so badly, that wasn't a good thing. So they restricted it at their planet very much, even though it had not been extinct, because it's a human trait, and in many ways they were very, very, very human. So they were not able to make such important traits, like love for others and care and all that. They couldn't make them go extinct, but they were restricted at the planet. So these two, Danius and Elia, after all, their experience there and knowing about the whole archive of the ancients, they had good research to bring up the importance of love at their planet. However, they knew that when they took back all this controversy with what they found, nobody there was going to care about love. Everyone was going to care about the fact that they were bringing controversy, like their history was a lie, all that. And this research that they had, no one was going to care about it. And they were talking about it between the two of them, like in a way that they were starting to sound like a little defeated, like they were not sure if they will be able to do it. But Barley, the commander, goes to them, and he kind of like, pats him on the shoulder, puts his hand on the shoulder of Danius, and he saw that hand on the shoulder of Elia. And by the way, remember, like a century ago, Barley was kind of like interested in Elia, but all that changed. Like they were now his best friends, essentially. They were his friends now after this 1 century long expedition. So he went there to bring their spirits up, to bring his friend's spirit up, and he tells them, we will have never achieved finding these fossils, and we will have never been successful in this expedition if it had not been for you. You were like the 2 scientists in the expedition. When the ship broke, you were the ones that could fix it. If there was anything technical, it was you who made it. And he tells them, if you guys have been able to do all of this, you can definitely make your dreams come true when we get back to Utopia. And if your dream is not the fossils and all that, and your dream is the research on love, on how the love of the ancients can benefit them in their world, then that's what you should do. And he brings their spirits up, and then he goes and he does that with the others in the expedition too. And that's when you can tell that this Barley guy is gold. Like he's a true leader. He's very inspirational. He cares about the crew, and he, on his own, like he's not as smart as the 2 scientists. Maybe he doesn't have things that the others have. Like Jack is obviously a better pilot, that sort of stuff. But he is someone that is clearly thinking beyond the others when it comes to what has to be done to bring the whole group up. And he tells them, right then at that point, that's, like a little reveal about Barley that we didn't know yet. We could have, predicted it, because he was kind of religious, but he tells them, like what he was going to do when they returned to his planet was actually creating a new religion. That's what he wanted to do. He realized how much he was the religious one in the group, essentially. He was, the cool part are the ninja skills, not the religious part. But a big part of Barley is that he was like a religious military ninja, essentially. That's what he was. And he wanted to like spread that at Utopia when he returned, because in Utopia they didn't have a religion. They didn't even know what religion was, even though they had potential to develop one, they had potential to believe in one, but they didn't have it. So then, that was what Barley wanted. He wanted to create a new religion on his planet in return. And he was like, okay, so if I'm gonna do this, you two, who are so smart, who are so great, can definitely create, your research to bring up the importance of love at our planet, and you can make a positive difference for the planet. Like Barley was the guy in their expedition who really cared about making a positive impact on the whole race, on all the Homo sapiens, on his planet. He wanted to make, the others were thinking like their personal aspirations. They were thinking more about their field, like, oh, we want, this is the research that we want to make an impact on our fields, and it is, their personal research, the research that they want. But Barley was also thinking, kind of like a hero, essentially, like what can be the thing that he can do that is not just for him, but it's also something that is going to benefit the whole race, the whole planet, like all the Homo sapiens. No, not the Homo sapiens, the Robo sapiens. So yeah, and at that point, that's the end of it. That's the end of the chapter 3, the Great Discovery. They return to the ship. They have a few months. So during those few months before they get back to Utopia, what's gonna happen is that when the months go by and their other ship arrives close to the planet, they're gonna make a teleportation from where they are to there. So they're not really going to travel. They're just going to wait. So during that time, they decide that they're gonna study whatever they had missed from the archive of the ancients, because they know that this archive, which was 97% secret and hidden by their their leaders from the rest of the Utopian population at planet Utopia, they had full access to it. So they knew that very likely when they returned to the planet, it was going to be removed from them. So since they're not going to have any more access to the archive, they want to make sure that they learn anything that they can learn from it. So they, those are the plans. And, that's it. That's it for chapter 3, the Great Discovery. In short, I have to go into more detail so that people get deeper into who the characters are and into the experience, because this is an experience. Like for me, coming up with this series, and also with all the series that I came up with, but right now we're focusing on this one, has been an experience. So to make the experience for you, for me it's already made, but to make it for you, I have to go into details. Otherwise, it's too difficult to make an experience if I don't describe and go into the minds of these characters and all that. So that's why this took so long. So this took 50 minutes. So 50 minutes. I talk too much. So, in short, what was the Great Discovery, which is the title of chapter 3, episode 3? The Great Discovery is that they found not just the fossils of the Homo sapiens and the DNA of the ancients, so that now they can bring them back through cloning. They can revive them in a way, right? By making clones of them. But they also found that their history was wrong. That is the Great Discovery. The Great Discovery are not the fossils. It's that they found that the history was wrong. And they found it because of the event that they found fossilized there. So, well, now we're done with the Great Discovery. So what's going to happen next? Next chapter, next episode, Arrival at Utopia. So we're gonna get back to the world of the Robo Sapiens. How is the world of the Robo Sapiens? How does it look like? What is it like? We're gonna see what's gonna happen when they return. We already know that there's gonna be something big. There's gonna be controversy because they're bringing back Pandora's box, and they're going to open Pandora's box at Utopia. So what's gonna happen there when Pandora's box gets open? We're gonna see. That's it for now. So next time it's going to be episode 4 or chapter 4, whichever way you want to see it, because I see it both ways. I see it as a book series, and I also see it as a TV series. So for me, it's the same if you call it chapter, if you call it episode, doesn't really matter. You know, I guess if you get incredibly creative, you could even turn it, you know, in a creative way, you could turn it into a video game series. But, you know, that would be a little harder, but it's still possible because you're gonna see, we're about to get into the action stuff. Like, so far, this is science fiction. It is a thriller, but in the long term, it's also an action thriller. So we're gonna see action in this series, and a lot of it. We're getting there. We're getting to, you know, to a point where we're gonna see the first big battle. You're gonna love it when I get there, because, you know, the way I think about stories, when there is a battle, that's good news, because it advances the story in some way, and it is just exhilarating. It's an action thriller when we get to a battle. So that's it. You know, I'm gonna leave it here, otherwise I'm gonna get to 1 hour. That's chapter 3, episode 3. Next one is gonna be Arrival at Utopia. What is gonna happen there? You know, because you're dealing with me, so there's always something interesting that is gonna happen in every chapter. So what is it gonna be? Can you guess it? We'll see. We'll see if you can guess it or not. All right, bye-bye.